Hello, everyone. Hi, Torild.
Hi, Rita,
Oh, good to see you.
and you.
Oh, this is going to be super fun today, talking about menopause. And I'm just checking in on certain things that we are running okay. So we are going to talk about a very interesting topic around going from chaos to catalyst when it comes to menopause. And before that, I've been really thinking about why do I go live like this on LinkedIn under a title like, wow, we never thought about it this way. And one of the things that has really come to me as of late through some other work that I'm doing with another coach is that what my clients are coming to me for is really for me to be fully expressed as we're going deep into the work we do together, whether that is being a trusted advisor, whether that is being an executive coach, whether that is being on the stage. What people want me to do is to be fully expressed with whatever topic that we might be talking about. And I was thinking about that. I love inviting in people into this LinkedIn Live that talk about all sorts of topics. So it's not like, oh, I'm staying in one lane. I'm only talking about women who are on the mission to solve some of the world's greatest challenges. What I believe is that it's taken us there when I am willing to step into different industry, different conversation, different rooms, different topics. And that's why we are here now. And the other thing that I also realized that why people are working with me is to get them off their path. So a lot of people think, oh, well, isn't it to kind of find the path? Well, yeah. And the number one thing that I've learned is majority of us we're really on the kind of the wrong path, but we are so comfortable walking that path that we are not ready to step out of it. And that links to the title. Wow, I never thought about it that way, or wow, we never thought about it that way. It is that there is another way we can look at everything in our life. And that also goes back on a very important topic, which is perimenopause, menopause, women's health, organizations, development. And for me, solving some of the greatest challenges in the world by making sure that the room is open for those who sit with these ideas, that we do not alienate anyone because they might sit with the exact solution that we are looking for. So I want to ask first anyone who is following us alive here, where are you connecting from? So I'm in Norway, in Stavanger, and Torild, where are you?
I'm in a place called East Sheen in London, southwest London. Yeah.
And how's the weather?
Uh, Pretty grey.
It's
Very
here,
British.
pretty grey.
Yeah.
Um, and I invite everyone to just chime in to see where are you calling from. And I would love for everyone to engage in the conversation. If you have any questions for Toral, me, engage. And the first thing you can engage with is to say where you're calling in from, dialing in from. Um, how are you feeling, Tora?
I feel it. Yeah. And that's good because then I know I'm doing the right thing. It's lovely to be here and I feel good. Yeah, I feel good. I feel excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your intention for our talk today?
I would love to be here and talk from an authentic place, from my authentic place, and share some of my experiences and other women I work with, but also for both for you who are in corporates or for the individual woman to come away with hopefully some tips and tools that you can, yeah, think about and preferably implement something. Mm.
I love that. Yeah, before we got on the call today, we talked about what is the intention, and very often, and I invite actually all the listeners to think about that when you go into a meeting or you're doing something, ask yourself, what is my intention for doing what I'm doing right now? If you are a leader and you're organizing a meeting, what is the actual intention? What do we want the people in the room to leave with? To normally have the end in mind. And for me, my intention is to talk about the topic, whether there are men in the room, women in the room, women thinking it from their personal perspective, a leader in an organization thinking it from a more diverse perspective, or a man having maybe, well, at least maybe there's a mother involved. There is maybe they have a sister. They might have a partner. That this topic is actually important for all of us. And I want the listener to feel more curious about what can actually take place of significance during perimenopause and menopause, and to remove some of the stigmas around it. So that's why I really wanted you, Torild, on the call today. I wanted to read something that came in today in my inbox, which is from you, Torild, and I just love this because it kind of resonates. You started off by saying, do you feel like something is starting to feel off? You've built a successful career, invested in yourself, and juggled the many moving pieces of life. But lately, your energy isn't quite the same. Sleep feels elusive, and with the busy festive season approaching, these feelings are only intensifying. And you're starting to wonder, could this be perimenopause? When I was reading this, Doral, I was thinking about so many who love the preparation for this season. And maybe suddenly they're taken off guard of like, oh, I don't want to do this. This feels awful. I feel uncomfortable. So something that has been such joy before now suddenly has shifted. What I know, Torild, is that you've been in the experience of all of what you work on. So tell me, why have you chosen this path to help women and organizations? Because that is a very important part of your work, working also with organization, to look at menopause from chaos to catalyst.
Well, yes, it comes, as you say, from personal experiences, most of all, and an innate belief that there's so much potential in every woman and in this stage to create something really amazing for yourself. So the thing is that there is still a big stigma. Whether we follow a lot of people who talk about menopause, I feel I hear about menopause 24/7, and probably those around me feel the same. But at the same time, there is still a big stigma, and there's many things still to do. So for me, it's about supporting women and organizations in realizing that it's very simple. It's simplifying this and being willing to look at this maybe in a new way and not overcomplicate it, not be scared of it, because it is an important stage in a woman's life, and it's important not just for the woman but for everyone, all the ripple effects around her and those experiencing menopause. So, yes, it came from personal experience. When I was in perimenopause, I was unaware. I was 42, considered quite, well, not young actually. It's normal, but I didn't know what perimenopause was at the time. I was also going through separation at that stage, which is obviously stressful. And we know that stress can exacerbate and intensify, hence the Christmas reference in my email newsletter, can intensify and exacerbate symptoms or whatever you're experiencing. So yes, that's why I feel passionate about helping women find their voice and finding who they really are at the core, because we have for so many years potentially been, putting on all these stories and layers and conform to work, society, whatever it is. And now is the time to really really be the one you are here to be. And yeah.
Yeah, but I'm curious though, because there are, I'm sure many of the listeners here who maybe don't know that they might be in perimenopause, because it's not about, okay, you just now your period stop and then, oh, that is the sign. There are things before that moment comes.
Mm.
What happened with you? Can you share the story? What went on for you? Like,
Mm.
you did know it, so what took you to realize that it was this?
That was my first night sweat. I realized that, oh, that sounds a bit familiar according to what my mum shared in the past, hot flushes, night sweats, which are the most kind of well-known symptoms, but by far the only symptom. But also this sense of really not feeling comfortable in my own body. And that was familiar because that was also something I experienced as a teenager, right? When we first got our periods, it was like, oh, icky.
Oh,
And then after childbirth as well. So the hormonal changes and how that impacted on how I felt about myself, not feeling comfortable in my own skin, like something is not as it used to be. Uh, I suffered anxieties and also not, of course, not helped by what I was going through at the time.
hmm.
So that's it really. That's how I, and then several things, but I'm not going to kind of symptomize this conversation. It's not about that, but
Hmm.
several things that happen throughout your menopausal journey. Maybe you experience different things, and they might then disappear and then come back.
Hmm.
It's a whole whirlwind of things that can happen.
Hmm.
It's important that we as women and companies are made aware of this. And yeah.
Yeah. So, why is it so important from a career perspective to study yourself, to get to know all these sides of you? Why is this so important?
Because it boils down to confidence, I believe. If we have women who lose confidence, and I'm not saying everyone does, but obviously when you don't potentially sleep very well, you feel anxious, you feel overwhelmed, which are symptoms of the perimenopause, then you're not potentially going to get the best out of the woman in the workplace either, because it might just be the case of getting by for some time.
Hmm.
And how that looks like potentially in the boardroom or in the decision making rooms is that you're not getting that authentic voice from the woman in the room,
Hmm.
because she's all of a sudden feeling like, oh, I don't feel comfortable, so I'm stepping back. Or sadly, even worse, 1 in 10 women in the UK step out. So it is actually it's a case of, do we want women in our company? Do we want to harness? Do we want to retain and attract women? How are we going to make it the best way for them so that they speak, in their authentic voice and show up, talk the truth, like you talk about a lot as well. How are we going to get the best solutions? A woman is not there to be in her own power at this stage. So, but
Hmm.
I'll add on to that as well. And I'm organizing an event in Oslo, an impact event next year, where we talk about menopause or female
Hmm.
health in the workplace. And we have invited in Anne Gry Reitan, who's going to speak about security, company security, and actually how not having women in the boardroom has implications on security for companies. So it's important on so many levels.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And, going into the area that I work on, yeah, I do believe that we need access to women's creative thinking. I believe that women possess a unique form of creativity that the world needs access to in order to solve some of the biggest challenges. I believe that we need access to anything in the diversity space, whether that is being neurodivergent or anything like that. The problem we see in this world have been created by a very homogeneous group, and it's time to look at it from a very different angle if we're looking for new solutions, and to be practical about things. It's like, it's not to, I mean, the stigma, I really want us to kind of remove the stigma, because we are like 51% women in this world.
Mm.
And we are all one way or the other going through these experiences. So it's not like it's a small minority of something. No, it is not. So we will all experience getting close to someone who's going through this in one degree or another. It's just like we have our periods, and then some of us have children, and some like, okay, and then we have perimenopause and menopause, and the opportunity that lays with it. And I'm curious about that aspect, because I know you talk a lot about the also the awesomeness to go through this and what you get access to. So now enlighten me. What's that? What is the the catalyst in this that is so amazing?
Yeah, and I say that, I have to say that, first of all, with great respect to any woman or anyone experiencing debilitating symptoms, because that can feel really, really, and it is hard and heavy. I just want to share from my perspective also that there is an innate opportunity here as well to build the life that you want to be living for the rest of your life. And let's face it, post-menopause is actually a long period of a woman's life. So we just want to make sure that we live those years the best that we can. I think that I was confused because I had always been told through the media and films and whatever that your 40s are your best years ever. Oh, no, thank you. Bring on the 50s, 60s. So it is, but it's about then being willing to look at what is not working for me now. So if you want change, you've got to look at what is it that is not working in my life, and be willing possibly to make some really hard decisions, maybe, but also be willing to take these little steps, incremental changes, because actually by doing so at a stage when we need something different in terms of how we look after ourselves, who we surround ourselves with, what we do, then you have the ability to build a life that's rocking in your 50s and 60s, you know. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things, the big difference from my experience and talking to clients in their 40s, is that now I'm so much more comfortable with silence. Not just silence here, I'm on my own a lot of the time anyway, but also going, being silent, sitting in silence. It's lovely. Whether that's you wanting to go out in nature, be in nature, meditate, hug a tree, whatever it is for you, it's important at this phase of life, because it's almost as if we have this need to hibernate. Yeah. So I just think you get clearer, or you can get clearer on what you really enjoy, because over time you may have. I mean, I used to, when I was 7, I used to love dancing and singing and stuff. And then I didn't do that for many, many years. And this is an opportunity to maybe come back to those things that you always enjoyed doing as a child that you just didn't have time for all those years. And now might be the time to do that.
Yeah, and could it possibly be that, with all respect for all the pains and aches and really horrible experiences that some women go through, and to one or the other degree, we all kind of step into it. There's always something that we minimize, that, oh, maybe it's not that significant, but it is terrible experiences. But could it possibly be that our body is giving us an opportunity to slow down, to check in, and to see that, you know what, I have tried to tell you something for years, that there are certain things that I need you to put your attention to, that there are my things that you're doing that you don't actually like doing. You've never liked it, but of course you've been so busy with whatever that is that you've done it anyway. And the body is now taking over and say, you know what? I've lived half my life now. Thank you very much. It is time for me to make some core decisions. And the only way I can get your attention is to give you some really painful things to slow you down. And if you listen to me, there is a wealth of wisdom and changes that you can choose to make, and you can live the best life ever. Now we need to slow down and listen.
It's
What do
so
you?
it's so important. I'm so glad you said that. I actually spoke to a client today who told me she's been having really bad back pain for the last few weeks. She's been through a stressful year. And today she said, you know what? I'm so grateful for that back pain because actually that forced me to slow down, forced me to do different types of exercises. In our 20s, 30s, 40s, I mean, I'm old, so this is different these days. But we were doing like Jane Fonda workouts and and that's yeah, that's not how our body is going to be supported at this stage. Definitely not. So we want to look at many different things and just really kind of frame everything around how we live our lives really on many
Yeah.
aspects.
Yeah. What is one of those things you realized that became super clear to you and that you realized you didn't like doing anymore because during perimenopause it was actually telling you that stop doing this? Did you have anything that you were like, I'm done with this?
Well, a huge thing is sleep. So anything that impacts with sleep is going to be detrimental to how you feel, i.e., alcohol, what you eat, sugars, how much water, how hydrated you are, bedtime routines, all those kind of things. And so that's a big thing. I think what I see also more and more is how important not just what we eat, but how we eat,
Mm.
how we enjoy our food, because it's not about dieting at all. It's making, again, small changes that may just, impact. Okay, so hydration levels and what we eat has a direct impact on how we feel, right? And how, if we have brain fog, it's really important to be well hydrated. And if we feel sluggish, maybe we don't want to reach for the bread 5 times a day, as we have been, in Norway. We were raised to eat bread 3 times a day and milk. so,
Oh,
so it's looking at different aspects, not just that, but also how much are we willing to ask for help at this stage? It's almost like it's the perfect storm because in the UK, to throw some figures in there, 60% women going through divorce, 60% of them are between 45 and 55, which is exactly the time when a woman generally goes through perimenopause. There's a red flag there. And so that's one thing. Maybe you have younger children, maybe you have teenage children who are going through their own hormones. Maybe you're looking after aging parents. There's so many aspects. So the perfect storm seems quite apt to call it. So it's a time where you really get to kind of look at how you are supporting your own energy levels.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting, talk about the perfect storm. It tells me how resilient we as women are.
Mm.
Like, even I go back to, I was 11 years old when I got my period. 11 years old. And from that moment until I went into menopause, I was in a fetus position 3 days every month in agony, in so much pain, and maneuvering my life around as if it's the normal thing. And it became normal because I knew it, and then you do whatever. And then you have a child, and then all the things that follows. And then, yeah, there are a lot of things coming up. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness gracious, talk about being resilient.
Mm.
And I think for me, I really want to remind all women that we are resilient. And when there is the experience of going through perimenopause, menopause, there is an opportunity to be more self-aware. What is truly going on? I wish that I had become far more self-aware, studied my own cycles when I was young. now I help my clients doing that, but I wish I did understand it then, because I could have been supporting my body so I didn't white knuckle in times when I was supposed to slow down. But I
Yes.
respected, in that case, the 20-day cycle, that you have your genius activated, and then you have a clear director that is telling you this is not the way for you to go. And you could actually say, I don't want to do this piece of work at all. But no, I didn't listen to that. And I see that with women today as well, going into menopause, being very clear also that there are certain things that the body is rebelling against. I don't want to do it anymore. And then we stop doing it. If we are aware of it, we say, okay, well, that's a wise message.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
Mm.
and a lot of that is having your own boundaries, I believe. So being comfortable with saying no to maybe 50% of the things that you were doing earlier in terms of socializing, and maybe you just need more time to self, and maybe you need more time to slow down and go to bed earlier and sleep well. Boring.
But it's a good thing. And then you rise and shine earlier and you feel different. And but the other thing I'm thinking about is you work a lot with organizations, supporting them in the work on menopause. UK is far ahead compared to other countries. That is something we know, including Norway. Um, if there is someone listening in from an organization, what do you want to share with them? Why this is so important?
I think it's back to what I was saying earlier, that if it depends what you want as an organization, I guess. It depends. Do you want women at this stage, which I believe most organizations do, because these are women who have worked in the organizations for a long time. There's a huge amount of experience and wisdom and knowledge, and to replace the women is costing a lot of money. So the impact you can have by making small changes are so going to be worth it. But the most important thing, I think, in any case, is to have a conversation, to listen to the women in your organization, to listen to other organizations who's done something that's worked for them, and there are plenty of them in the UK. And then it's, we talk about policies, but I believe that a policy is something that you reverse engineer almost. So that comes last in a way, when you actually know what is it that the women need, or those experiencing menopause need. So you want to have conversations, you could do awareness work, however that looks for you. There's mentorship coaching, there's different things you can implement. It's about simplifying it, and it's about making secure and safe spaces for not just those undergoing menopause, but also those who are not sure how to talk to a woman going through, or people going through menopause. So it is really about starting the conversation, I think.
Yeah, I love this. It reminds me of I was speaking at the conference last week in London, and one of the topic at this People Sustainability Summit was about neurodivergency, being neurodivergent. And the speaker, she was a president of a big pharmaceutical company, being on the spectrum, identifying herself as autistic. And she said the things that makes the big things for them for her was to have noise cancellation, to be in a room that have lower, lighting. And she said the loyalty that you bring to an organization that is willing to say, hey, we want the best for you. We also want the best for us. And we know that you have got what we want. So whatever you need, let's work on that. That was so inspiring. And that each of us come into a phase in life where things are shifting. Like it is that suddenly we need that raincoat because now it is raining outside. We don't need to make it more than that, but it's really helpful. It will put us up for a success, arriving somewhere dry instead of soaking wet. And the thing is that we can do the same in organizations. Like what I'm hearing is that what vision does the leader have for their organization? What do they believe is important for their growth, for the legacy that they want to leave behind? And is when they have this clear vision, they also see it makes so much sense to ask women who's going through this. I don't know what this feels like, particularly if we think about men or even women, because we all have our separate experience. Like, tell me what's going on. What is the best way we can help? Like temperatures, like because things are changing. And I do think that I'm not working in your field. I'm not working on this particular. I'm working more in the field of, does a leader have a vision? Do they have a vision for themselves? Do they have a clear vision for the organization? And I'm talking about more than what is generally just on the kind of, this is our vision and this is our mission. Are you really connected to that experience of seeing a vision and where you want to lead your organization? Do you also recognize that people all have their own vision? And then connect that vision to the people that is working with you. And what do they need so that jointly we can work towards this vision? And sometimes that means to be really giving equity, far more flexibility, whatever that might be. What is your take on that, from a leadership perspective? And it's more than the policy.
So that's such a good point, a question. And it reminds me of our podcast, actually, with Tom Stenner, who talked about how in their company, the law company he works in, how they check in with each other every morning. If someone is in pain because a period, is totally acceptable to work from home that day because she hadn't slept or for whatever reason, so that there is room for a period in a person's life to have more flexibility. I think that life and society has changed a lot. So we got to kind of look at this differently because things are changing and more women are leaving the workplace. 1 in 10 women are leaving because of menopausal symptoms, according to research in this country, and I believe in the US, and now there's research coming in Norway. So it's just being willing to look at it and be open and actually look at it and be willing to have those discussions, because the implementation, or whatever we want to call it, that you can give to your employees, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be difficult. So it just starts with safety, I think. Safe to speak about it. Perhaps, as you mentioned previously, I think, having, or some of the people I work with, some companies, they have, and I think this was big in the 2000s anyway, but having like a quiet room. So if you're experiencing that you're feeling anxious, you need to go in there and take a few breaths or sit in 10 minutes, guided breath work, whatever it is. But so you have these little spaces where the person can feel safe. Perhaps it's about normalizing it and destigmatizing it by having a few books out about menopause. It can be simple. It can be things in the toilet. You have extra pads for the women. Some companies have long frocks so that if she did bleed, which you might do in perimenopause more some months and it's irregular, so that you don't worry about these things. You don't have to worry. But again, it really starts with building safety around having the conversations. I mean, in the UK, the menopause is part of sex education in secondary school, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
So that we, from an early age, normalize the conversations. And
So what about normalizing? I mean, you kind of touched upon it, but I want to bring that up again. Normalizing the conversation in organizations. And I know this is a touchy, I mean, we can't even talk about the periods in organizations. It's like, even as women, we don't really talk about it, but we need to be able to bring these things into the room, right? And for so many years, we have the period and we don't really talk about it. It's just that time of the month. And now we're stepping into something which is a phase of our life, and we're not really talking about that, but now we're making life-altering decisions that might put ourselves at risk. What about, I know we have like menopause days, we have awareness days, we have awareness month. Why do you think this is important for organizations to embrace?
Well, the female workforce is bigger and rising more than ever before. There's how many millions of women in the UK at menopause? Oh, can't remember the figures right now. Millions, right? And we live longer, we work longer, and if you want to be, you talk to this a lot. If you want to solve some of the world's biggest problems, you've got to have that talent also. We can't neglect the fact that women are leaving the workplace. And I'm not saying that we need to sit around and talk about menopause all day long in an organization, but it's simple steps, and it's actually, it's, you know, it's offering simple things like flexible working hours, of course, but also things in the workplace and conversations. It could be having a menopause champion. It could be having workshops, whatever it looks like for the organization. But just the willingness to have these conversations and asking yourself, do we want to attract and retain the women that we do have? Do we want more women? Because I also believe that the generations coming after us will have, and we know that already, they have different expectations in terms of well-being, health, and how they're supported in the workplace. So
Mm. Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because some people says it's like with Women's Day, there is this once, kind of once a month, no, once a year, and it shouldn't be that. It should be all the time. And at the same time, I think we need to start with a very important thing, and that is with awareness. And even if it starts with a day or a month, a year, I feel that it is to dare to have the conversation in an organization where there are sharings, where you have maybe like yourself, you're a speaker to this, you go into the room and you share your experience. And that might be the first time an organization or people inside an organization is actually in public in the organization having that conversation. I remember I was leading some work in an organization, and I used it as an example. I just started to talk about menopause, and it was like people were blushing, people were hiding, men and women, because it's like, why is she talking about that? Aren't we supposed to talk about something else? But again, it's related to safety. So you can't ignore something that might be very important. And you bring this into organization. You help them to be aware of this. So very quickly, before we close, what is the work that you do with organizations that people listening in to here might want to connect with you for, in addition to the what you do one-on-one with clients?
yeah, so awareness sessions for managers and the ones not directly impacted as such by menopause. That's one side to it. I've done a few of those, but also offering now in the new year the 7-week menopause plan, both for the organization and for the individual. Yeah, and that is a very tangible framework, and it's these incremental steps that, if as an organization you offer this as a group program or even a larger audience type program, a one-to-one, it's a huge impact on the women that I work with. And there's a few women, I just want to say that, who I worked with who did feel comfortable all their lives taking on the roles, taking the leadership roles, and all of a sudden find themselves that, oh, it's uncomfortable because I'm experiencing hot flushes and I forget my words. I'm not saying everyone does this, but it can happen. And so if you don't feel confident in going through menopause, feeling okay about what's happening with you, it's going to directly impact how you show up at work and what you as an organization get from the people going through it. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I also know, because I saw that in your email, that you are invited people to experience a one-on-one conversation with you. What really came to me was that, wouldn't that also be quite powerful for somebody who might be a leader in the organization? Let's say this is a female leader who would like to understand what is the offering that we can give to, let's say, women in our organization by saying yes to have a free conversation with you and go a bit deep, so they know what they're inviting eventually their people into.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just to say that, I want to mention this is a CPT accredited training that I'm doing to enhance my coaching skills, and because I'm passionate about this topic. And so the woman behind this is Lauren Shiren, and women of a certain stage. So it's a very it works. She's worked with this for many years, and it really works. It makes changes. So yes, that's a great idea. And I'm inviting in for a free menopause breakthrough session. And before the session, I would ask certain questions and stuff, so a little bit of background beforehand. But then we will go through, and I would explain and give examples of how we would be working through the 7-week menopause plan as well. So
yeah, I think that is so cool. Thank you.
yeah.
So much. I was looking at if there were any comments, but I can't see that we have had any comments. What I would say is that if somebody is watching this replay, please comment. Please ask any questions. Connect with Torild on the topic. Connect with me, if anything. I think having this conversation is so cool. Torild and I, we also have a podcast which is called What's in It for Me, where we have, a more relaxed conversation around the topics of menopause and other things as well that might happen in our lives. So please ask us any questions, DM directly for Torild, and you also have torildboe.com, which is your homepage.
Under construction, but yes.
Under construction, yeah. But that's
yeah. But please connect on LinkedIn or Instagram, and yeah. Great.
Any final words from your end? Anything you want to show that lands before we leave?
Just to say, for those who may be experiencing a challenging time with it, just know that by making some small changes, you can really notice differences and live a better life quite soon. So yes, and no reason to feel desperate that this is going to last forever, because it's not. It's a transition. And I'll just say thank you so much for raising the topic on your channel, Rita, and always nice to talk to you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I will be back in a month. I don't know who I'm going to talk to then, but I'm sure it's going to be super exciting. And with that, enjoy the season and reach out if anything we can help with. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.